let's talk about one of the most intense, relentless, and talented drivers Formula 1 has ever seen, Fernando Alonso. From his early days at Minardi to fighting at the top with Renault, McLaren, Ferrari, Alonso has one of the longest and most fascinating careers in motorsport. But just how good was he really? Let's break it down. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Born in 1981 to a working-class family, Alonso's introduction to racing came from his father, Jose, who worked as an explosives worker in a mine and shared a deep love for karting. Originally, Jose built a go-kart for Fernando's older sister, but she didn't take to it. Fernando, however, was instantly hooked. Unlike many young racers backed by wealthy families or sponsorships, Alonso's journey was largely a family effort. Jose took on multiple roles: mechanic, strategist, and manager to help Fernando succeed, while his mother, Ana, even adjusted his race suits by hand as he grew. Due to limited funds, Fernando often raced in wet conditions with slick tires because his family couldn't afford to buy rain tires. Remarkably, these early challenges honed his skill to a level where he could handle and adapt to any car condition, a trait that would define him throughout his career. By the age of 5, Alonso's karting journey formally took off, and in 1988 and 1989, he won Austrian and Galician karting championships. A local kart importer named Genis Marco became his first real sponsor, setting him up with better equipment and the chance to compete in the larger European karting circuits. With this support, Alonso could now showcase his skills on an even bigger stage, and he didn't disappoint. In 1994, he clinched his first national karting championship in Spain, and by 1996, he won the Junior Karting Championship in Belgium in the 100cc. He went on to win 3 consecutive Spanish karting championships from 1997 to 1999. In 1999, Alonso achieved one of his career-defining karting moments by finishing 3rd in the World Karting Championships. Age 17, Alonso took the next big step, moving from karting to single-seaters, joining the Euro Open by Nissan Series, which was a critical stepping stone for future F1 drivers. Competing for Campos Racing Team, he was an instant success, winning the championship in his debut year. This wasn't just a fluke. Alonso clinched the title in the final race at Valencia, proving that he could handle pressure and deliver when it mattered most. His triumph in the Euro Open by Nissan Series earned him a Formula 3000 seat in 2000 with the Aston Martin team. Competing against drivers who had more experience and better funded teams, Alonso still managed to secure 4th place in the standings, along with a victory at Spa-Francorchamps, a track known for separating the great drivers from the good ones. By the end of 2000, his name was on the radar for several Formula 1 teams, but it was Renault team principal Flavio Briatore who took the gamble on him. Briatore brought Alonso into the Renault fold, initially as a test driver for their sister team, Minardi, in 2001. Minardi was far from competitive, but Alonso's time there allowed him to showcase his skills in a car that had no business fighting near the front. In 2001 F1 season, Alonso made headlines by finishing 10th at the German Grand Prix, a remarkable achievement given Minardi's position as one of the smallest and least funded teams on the grid. Though he finished 23rd in the standings, his season with Minardi was seen as a breakout year for F1 insiders. Renault was closely monitoring his progress. By 2002, Briatore was ready to promote Alonso to a full-time test driver role with Renault, grooming him for a race seat in 2003. This wasn't just a stroke of luck. It was a calculated move by Renault to ensure they had Alonso prepared and familiar with the team setups before he officially joined as a full-time driver. By the time he secured his Renault seat in 2003, Fernando Alonso was more than ready to make an impact in the F1 world. In 2003, Renault promoted Alonso to a full-time race seat alongside teammate Jarno Trulli, and it quickly became apparent that he was a force to be reckoned with. At the season's 2nd race in Malaysia, Alonso made history by becoming the youngest driver ever to secure a pole position. At just 21 years old, he showed the world he wasn't intimidated by the pressures of F1's top spots. One of the defining moments of Alonso's 2003 season came during his epic duel with Michael Schumacher at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Schumacher was in the middle of his reign with Ferrari and had a reputation for being almost untouchable. However, Alonso managed to not only keep up with Schumacher, but also put a significant pressure on him. Alonso went on to achieve his first ever race victory at the Hungarian Grand Prix, again making history as the youngest F1 race winner at the time, a place that now belongs to Max Verstappen. This battle showcased Alonso's fearlessness and his refusal to be intimidated, even by a driver as dominant as Schumacher. It was a sign that Alonso had the potential to be the next big name in F1. By the end of the 2003 season, Alonso had accumulated 4 podium finishes and placed 6th in the driver's standings, a remarkable achievement in just his first year with Renault. In the 2004 season, Fernando Alonso continued to impress as he raced alongside teammate Jarno Trulli with Renault. While Ferrari and Michael Schumacher's dominance continued to overshadow much of the grid, Alonso started the season strong. often qualifying within the top positions. Alonso had several consistent points finishes, despite Renault not yet being capable of regularly challenging Ferrari for a race win. His best result came at the French Grand Prix, where he managed a strong second-place finish behind Schumacher, showcasing Renault's growing potential and Alonso's insane racing ability. One memorable race for Alonso in 2004 was at the German Grand Prix, where he engaged in a battle with Kimi Raikkonen, who was driving for McLaren. Despite Raikkonen's retirement from the race due to a rear wing failure, the duel highlighted Alonso's aggressive but controlled driving style, allowing him to secure another valuable podium for Renault. Though Alonso didn't achieve a victory in 2004, his consistent performance resulted in 4 podium finishes throughout the season. He ended the year in 4th place in the drivers' standings, while Renault finished 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. With Renault's focus on further development, Alonso's potential to compete at the highest level became increasingly evident, setting the stage for what would be a historic 2005 season. Fernando Alonso's 2005 and 2006 seasons with Renault marked his ascent to the top of Formula One. These were the years when he transformed from a promising young driver into a world champion, facing none other than Michael Schumacher, the 7-time world champion, dominating the era. In 2005, Alonso started strong, with Renault fielding a powerful car, the R25, designed to take on the top teams. R25 was engineered to increase rear stiffness for better stability, had a friendly torque curve for improved drivability, and featured an unusual weight distribution which enhances traction and slow corner performance. In the 2005 Formula One season, teams could choose their tire manufacturer. The 2 main suppliers were Bridgestone and Michelin, and each team had an exclusive contract with one of them. Tire setup, which significantly impacted the dynamics of the season, and this tire rivalry became a notable feature of the 2005 season, especially leading up to the controversial United States Grand Prix, where tire issues led to only 6 cars competing in the race. However, tire choice was crucial for another reason as well. Because of the new rule, drivers had to use the same set of tires for both qualifying and the entire race. The R25 was equipped with a V10 engine and Michelin tires, a combo that gave it exceptional grip and stability on various tracks. Alonso kicked off with a series of wins in Malaysia, Bahrain, and San Marino, creating early momentum that would prove crucial in his title bid. Alonso's greatest competition in 2005 was Kimi Raikkonen in the McLaren, whose car was often faster on outright pace. But where Raikkonen and McLaren frequently suffered from reliability issues, Alonso's Renault consistently made it to the checkered flag. This became a season of strategic finesse, where Alonso maximized points at every opportunity, often finishing just behind Raikkonen if he couldn't beat him outright. Perhaps the most defining moments of Alonso's 2005 season came during the San Marino Grand Prix. In the final laps, he found himself defending against Michael Schumacher, who was rapidly closing in on him. The two went wheel to wheel in a thrilling battle, with Alonso holding off Schumacher lap after lap. Alonso won the race by a narrow margin, a victory that signaled a shift in the power within F1. Fans saw that Alonso wasn't intimidated by the great Schumacher, he was there to challenge him. By the end of the 2005 season, Alonso had secured his first world championship, making him the youngest driver at the time to do so at the age of 24. He ended the season with a whopping 133 points. He not only broke records, but he also broke Ferrari's hold on the championship, a streak that had lasted for 5 consecutive years. Renault too celebrated as they took the Constructors' Championship. This wasn't just a victory for Alonso, it was a statement that F1's new generation had arrived, and he was leading the charge. Entering 2006, Alonso knew defending his title wouldn't be easy. Ferrari and Schumacher were determined to reclaim their dominance, and the battle between Renault and Ferrari intensified. Renault's car for the season, the R26, built upon the strengths of his predecessors but introduced improvements in aerodynamics and power. Once again, Alonso won the first 2 races in Bahrain and Malaysia, making it clear that he had no intention of letting go of his championship without a fight. Alonso's consistency in 2006 was impressive, and the season soon turned into a fierce rivalry with Schumacher. Throughout the year, the two traded wins, with Schumacher closing the gap as Ferrari improved their car's performance. One of the season's most exciting races was the Spanish Grand Prix, where Alonso took a dominant victory on home soil, becoming the first Spaniard to win in Spain. The championship battle in 2006 reached its climax in the final rounds, particularly in Japan and Brazil. At the Japanese Grand Prix, Schumacher's engine failure handed Alonso a critical advantage. Alonso seized the opportunity, winning the race and securing a substantial lead heading into the final round in Brazil. With only a single point needed to clinch his second title, he played it safe in Brazil, driving a calculated race to ensure his championship victory. By finishing second in that race, Alonso wrapped up his season with another world championship, making him a double champion at just 25 years old. Alonso's back-to-back championships with Renault were a turning point for the team as well. Renault, traditionally a midfield team, became the center of the F1 universe thanks to Alonso's success. The team had previously tasted glory with drivers like Alain Prost, but Alonso brought them sustained success, marking Renault's place in F1 history. In these 2 seasons, Alonso proved he can not only compete with the best, but also beat them. The years 2007 to 2009 were some of the most dramatic and controversial in Fernando Alonso's career. His move to McLaren in 2007 looked promising on paper. He was a double world champion, ready to lead one of the most storied teams in F1. But nobody could have predicted the impact that Hamilton, a rookie promoted from McLaren's junior driver program, would have on the team dynamic. From the very first race, Hamilton showed extraordinary talent and speed, matching Alonso's pace and occasionally outperforming him. This sparked a rivalry that escalated faster than anyone expected. Alonso, used to being the clear team leader, found himself unexpectedly sharing the spotlight and the points with an ambitious rookie, creating immediate tension. A notable flashpoint occurred during the Hungarian Grand Prix. In qualifying, Alonso and Hamilton had a tense standoff during their pit stops. Hamilton ignored a team order to let Alonso pass, leading Alonso to retaliate by delaying his exit from the pit box, which prevented Hamilton from completing his final flying lap. This act of blocking cost McLaren pole position, infuriated team principal Ron Dennis. The FIA eventually penalized Alonso, relegating him down the grid, and the incident became symbolic of the power struggle within the team. Team principal's preference for Hamilton became increasingly apparent, which Alonso took as a sign that the team wasn't fully supporting him. Alonso even threatened to reveal emails and confidential information unless he received preferential treatment. This friction reached a breaking point during the 2007 championship, which resulted in both Alonso and Hamilton narrowly missing out on the title, with Kimi Raikkonen clinching it in a surprise win for Ferrari. Kimi seized the opportunity to clinch the title in a dramatic finale at the Brazilian Grand Prix, winning by a single point over both McLaren drivers, who tied in points but finished behind due to countback rules. The situation became even more complicated with the infamous spygate scandal. During the 2007, it emerged that a McLaren engineer had obtained confidential technical data from Ferrari, providing McLaren with an unfair advantage. The scandal rocked the F1 community, as the FIA investigated whether McLaren used Ferrari's designs to influence the performance of their car. Alonso's role in the scandal was controversial, as he was reportedly aware of the information but did not initially report it. When tensions with McLaren reached the breaking points, Alonso offered to provide evidence of McLaren's misconduct in exchange for immunity from penalties, which the FIA granted. Ultimately, McLaren was found guilty, and the FIA imposed one of the harshest penalties in F1 history, a $100 million fine and exclusion from the Constructors' Championship. The season ended with Alonso and McLaren parting ways, despite his contract. For Alonso, the season had been a bruising experience, as he left McLaren amid the wreckage of Spygate, deeply impacting his reputation and throwing Alonso's career in a downturn. After his exit from McLaren, Alonso returned to Renault in 2008, a move that initially seemed like a step backward. Renault wasn't the team it had been during the championship years, but Alonso managed to win in Singapore, securing Renault's only victory of the season. However, this win would later become infamous for its connections to the Crashgate scandal. The 2008 Singapore Grand Prix marked the first ever night race in F1 history, and it turned into a huge moment for Alonso and Renault. During the race, Alonso's teammate Nelson Piquet Jr. crashed on lap 14, bringing out the safety car. This incident occurred shortly after Alonso had made an early pit stop, which, under the safety car conditions, provided him with a strategic advantage. Alonso capitalized on this and went on to win the race, which was initially perceived as a masterstroke of strategy. However, in 2009, after Piquet was dropped from Renault, he revealed shocking information. He'd been ordered to crash deliberately to benefit Alonso's strategy. The FIA launched an investigation, which found Renault guilty of orchestrating the crash. Team principal Flavio Briatore and engineer Pat Simmons received harsh punishments. Briatore was banned from F1 indefinitely, though the ban was later overturned. Although Alonso was cleared of any wrongdoing, and he reportedly had no knowledge of the scheme, the scandal further complicated his reputation. Alonso's 2009 season with Renault was challenging on multiple fronts. The car was uncompetitive, and he struggled to achieve the results he was used to. Despite his best efforts, he finished the season with only a handful of points and one podium, marking one of the most frustrating periods of his career. By the end of 2009, it was clear that Alonso was ready to move on and seek new opportunities with a team that could provide him with a competitive car. In 2010, Alonso's career would take another turn as he joined Ferrari, a move that many hoped would bring him back to the front of the grid. The Ferrari years, from 2010 to 2014, were some of the most memorable and heartbreaking chapters in Fernando Alonso's career. The Italian team hadn't won driver's title since Kimi Raikkonen's 2007 win, and Alonso arrived at a time when the team was desperately looking to challenge Red Bull and their rising star, Sebastian Vettel. In his debut season with Ferrari in 2010, Alonso wasted no time showing his intent. His first race with Ferrari was nothing short of a dream start, as he claimed victory in the season opener in Bahrain. Alonso's skill and Ferrari's pace made them instant contenders, and he went on to secure 4 more wins over the course of the season. Ferrari fans, hungry for a return to the top, saw Alonso as the perfect driver to bring the Scuderia back to the championship-winning ways. In the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Alonso's main rival, Sebastian Vettel, needed to win the race and hope Alonso faltered. When Mark Webber, another title contender, pitted early in the race, Ferrari responded by calling in Alonso to cover Webber's move, aiming to keep him ahead of the Australian. Unfortunately, this strategy backfired spectacularly. Alonso rejoined the race behind the Renault of Vitaly Petrov, and despite all his efforts, was unable to overtake him. Lap after lap, Alonso was stuck behind Petrov, watching his championship hopes slip away. Vettel went on to win the race, and in doing so, clinched his first world title, leaving Alonso and Ferrari devastated. Alonso finished the season just 4 points behind Vettel, marking one of the closest and most painful title misses in his career. The following year, 2011, was largely a Red Bull-dominated season. Despite Alonso's best efforts, Ferrari struggled to match the pace of the Red Bull RB7, a car that was a clear step ahead in terms of aerodynamics and overall speed. Vettel was almost untouchable, winning 11 races and wrapping up the title with several races to spare. Although Alonso managed to clinch a single race win at the British Grand Prix, Ferrari was simply not competitive enough to mount a serious title challenge. Alonso ended the season in 4th place in the driver's standings, well behind Vettel, who defended his title with ease. In 2012, Alonso's hopes for a win reached new lows. The Ferrari F2012 was not expected to be competitive, especially early in the season, as the car was plagued with handling issues and a lack of straight-line speed. But Alonso's brilliance behind the wheel masked many of the car's flaws, and he managed to score a surprise victory in Malaysia, taking advantage of tricky wet conditions. As the season progressed, Alonso continued to maximize every opportunity, often dragging the car into podium finishes against faster rivals. He would go on to win 3 races that season and lead the championship standings for much of the year, even though Red Bull and McLaren frequently had the faster cars. The 2012 season came down to the wire, with Alonso and Vettel battling for the title at the final race in Brazil. Once again, it was a season finale filled with drama. Vettel, starting the race with a 13-point lead over Alonso, faced immediate adversity when he was involved in the first lap collision with Bruno Senna, which damaged his car and relegated him to the back of the field. Alonso, on the other hand, raced at the front, doing everything in his power to clinch the title. Despite the setback, Vettel executed a remarkable recovery, navigating through the field to finish in 6th place, thereby securing enough points to clinch his 3rd consecutive world championship. Alonso delivered a strong performance, finishing 2nd in the race, but ultimately he fell short in the championship by just 3 points. It was a gut-wrenching end to a season in which Alonso had driven one of the most heroic campaigns of his career, squeezing every bit of performance out of a car that was widely considered inferior to Red Bull. The 2013 season marked another frustrating year for Alonso and Ferrari. While Alonso won 2 races early in the season in China and Spain, Red Bull's dominance became more pronounced as the season progressed. Vettel went on a record-breaking 9-race winning streak to end the season, sealing his 4th consecutive world title with ease. Meanwhile, Ferrari's development stalled, and Alonso found himself unable to keep pace with Vettel in the Red Bull RB9. By the end of the season, Alonso was 2nd in the standings, a significant 155 points behind Vettel. Despite finishing as the runner-up, the gap between Ferrari and Red Bull showed just how much ground the Italian team needed to make up if they were to seriously contend for the championship. Alonso's relationship with Ferrari team principal Luca de Montezemolo also began to show signs of strain, as the two clashed over the team's performance and future direction. Ferrari's failure to keep up with Red Bull in the development race, coupled with the rise of Mercedes as a competitive force, left Alonso increasingly disillusioned. By the end of the 2013 season, it was clear that Alonso's hopes of winning a title with Ferrari were fading. In 2014, the introduction of new turbo hybrid engine regulations shook up the grid, with Mercedes emerging as the dominant team under the new rules. Ferrari struggled to adapt to the new power units, and the F14T, their car for the season, plagued by issues with both power and handling. For Alonso, it was a deeply frustrating year, as he managed only 2 podium finishes and ended the season 6th in the driver's standings. Alonso's time with Ferrari ended after the 2014 season, bringing a close to a chapter filled with both incredible highs and heartbreaking near misses. Over 5 seasons with the Scuderia, Alonso scored 11 wins, 44 podiums, and 2 runner-up finishes in the Drivers' Championship. Despite his undeniable talent and determination, he was ultimately unable to capture the title that he and Ferrari so desperately wanted. So it was time for Alonso to shake up things a bit, or shall I say, return home. After 5 seasons with Ferrari without a title, Alonso returned to McLaren in 2015, looking for a fresh start. McLaren had recently rekindled its legendary partnership with Honda, aiming to replicate the dominance they had achieved together in the late 1980s and early 1990s. However, the Honda-powered McLaren from the outset was plagued with issues. During the preseason test of 2015, McLaren's car was barely able to complete a handful of laps without encountering serious mechanical issues. Honda, who had been absent from F1 since 2008, was struggling to build a competitive and reliable hybrid power unit. Alonso himself faced a personal setback before the season even began. In February 2015, during pre-season testing in Barcelona, Alonso suffered a high-speed crash that caused a concussion, leading him to miss the season-opening Australian Grand Prix. His comeback in Malaysia marked the beginning of what would be a very frustrating journey with McLaren Honda. Alonso faced repeated engine failures, retirements, and poor performance in nearly every race. The MP4-30 car was severely underpowered, often being overtaken easily on straightaways. At one point during the Japanese Grand Prix in Honda's home country, Alonso famously vented his frustration over the team radio, calling the Honda engine a GP2 engine, a reference to the lower-tier racing series that suggested the McLaren's power unit was embarrassingly slow by F1 standards. Alonso's comment made headlines worldwide, becoming a symbol of McLaren Honda's struggles and setting the tone for what would become a rocky relationship between the two parties. McLaren's results in 2015 were abysmal. Alonso scored only 11 points, and his best finish was 5th place at the Hungarian Grand Prix. McLaren ended the season 9th in the constructors' standings, a significant drop from their historical standards. The 2016 season saw little improvement. Honda had promised upgrades to the power unit, but the progress was minimal. This year's season was also marked by an intense crash at the Australian Grand Prix, where Alonso collided with Haas at high speed, causing his car to roll multiple times before crashing into the barriers. Alonso finished the season with only 54 points, with his best finishes being 5th place in Monaco in the United States. McLaren placed 6th in the constructors' standings, which was an improvement over 2015, but still far below the expectations of both the team and Alonso. The relationship between McLaren and Honda continued to deteriorate in 2017 as performance issues persisted. Despite another year of promised upgrades, Honda's engines continued to suffer from reliability problems and a lack of power. By mid-season, Alonso had already used more power units than allowed, resulting in multiple grid penalties. For instance, at the Belgian Grand Prix, Alonso incurred a 35-place grid penalty after McLaren Honda fitted an upgraded power unit to his car, which suffered a water leak during his first practice and needed to be replaced. All of this hampered his chances of scoring points. The frustration reached a boiling point during the Canadian Grand Prix, where Alonso was on track to score McLaren's first points of the season. However, with just 2 laps remaining, his engine failed yet again, leaving him stranded on the track. Alonso climbed out of the car, waved to the crowd, and made his way to the stands, symbolically distancing himself from the troubled McLaren Honda project. Despite the ongoing struggles, Alonso's performance in 2017 showed glimpses of his immense talent. In Azerbaijan, he managed to finish 9th after starting from the back of the grid due to a 40-place grid penalty for using additional power unit elements. That race secured McLaren's first points of the season. At the Hungarian Grand Prix, he finished 6th, even setting the fastest lap of the race in the final stages. These performances reminded fans and rivals alike that Alonso was still one of the most skilled drivers on the grid, even if his car didn't reflect his abilities. Off the track, Alonso began exploring other racing avenues, notably competing in the Indianapolis 500 as part of his quest to achieve the Triple Crown of motorsport. However, his participation in the Indy 500 in 2017 was plagued by the same problems. Alonso led 27 laps before retiring due to an engine failure. Talk about bad luck. By the end of 2017, McLaren decided that enough was enough. The team announced it was ending its partnership with Honda and would switch to Renault engines for the 2018 season. Alonso, who had remained loyal to McLaren despite the setbacks, welcomed the change with cautious optimism. The Renault power unit was expected to be more reliable and competitive, giving McLaren a better chance of competing in the midfield. The 2018 season was a modest improvement for Alonso, as he managed to score points in several races, including an impressive 5th place finish at the season's opener in Australia. However, the move to Renault did not bring the transformative change that Alonso and McLaren had hoped for. While the Renault-powered McLaren was more reliable than its Honda-powered predecessor, it lacked the performance needed to challenge the top teams. In addition, McLaren's chassis was not as competitive as they had anticipated, and Alonso frequently found himself battling in the midfield once again. As the season progressed, it became clear that McLaren's struggles were not solely due to Honda's engine issues. The team's overall package, including its chassis and aerodynamics, was not on par with the top competitors, and the limitations on the car became increasingly apparent. By mid-2018, Alonso made the difficult decision to step away from Formula 1 at the end of the season. He announced his departure with a statement that reflected both his passion for the sport and his frustration for the lack of competitiveness he had experienced in recent years. Alonso had given everything to McLaren, but the team's inability to provide him with a winning car had taken its toll. His exit from F1 marked the end of a chapter filled with challenges, disappointments, and moments of brilliance that showcase his resilience and skill. However, that didn't mean Fernando Alonso wasn't racing anymore. The Triple Crown was still his next target. Fernando Alonso's pursuit of motorsport's elusive Triple Crown, winning the Monaco Grand Prix, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and the Indianapolis 500, became one of the most exciting narratives in racing during 2018 to 2020. In 2018, Alonso took his first major step towards the Triple Crown by joining the Toyota Gazoo racing team to compete in the prestigious 24 Hours of Le Mans. Despite being new to endurance racing, Alonso adapted quickly to the format. Alongside teammates Kazuki Nakajima and Sebastian Buemi, Alonso drove the Toyota TS050 Hybrid. The result was nothing short of spectacular. Alonso and his teammates dominated the 2018 Le Mans, leading much of the race and eventually taking the checkered flag. This victory secured Alonso the second piece of the Triple Crown puzzle, putting him alongside only a few drivers in history who'd won both the Monaco Grand Prix and Le Mans. The accomplishment instantly elevated Alonso's legacy, signaling that his fortune was on the verge of turning around. Encouraged by his success at Le Mans, Alonso expanded his involvement with Toyota and participated in the FIA World Endurance Championship for the 2018 and 2019 Super Season. In WEC, the team's success relies heavily on the cohesion and communication among drivers, engineers, and pit crews, a challenge Alonso embraced. He played a crucial role in Toyota's campaign, helping the team secure the WEC World Championship by winning 4 out of the 8 races in the Super Season, including a second consecutive victory at Le Mans in 2019. While endurance racing was a triumph, Alonso's attempt at the Indianapolis 500 proved to be a more formidable challenge. His first outing at the Indy 500 in 2017 had showed promise when he raced for McLaren Honda Andretti, leading 27 laps but cut short by engine failure. In 2019, Alonso returned to the Indy 500 with McLaren, but this time the experience was a stark contrast. Despite high expectations, McLaren's lack of preparation became painfully evident as Alonso failed to qualify for the race. The setback was disappointing not only for Alonso but also for fans who had eagerly anticipated his return to the IndyCar arena. In 2020, Alonso made his third attempt at the Indianapolis 500, this time partnering with Arrow McLaren SP. He'd qualified 26th, far back in the grid, making it difficult to break into the lead pack. During the race, he faced handling problems and struggled to find the pace necessary to challenge the frontrunners. Ultimately, Alonso finished 21st, far from the victory he sought. Beyond the Triple Crown pursuits, Alonso's time away from F1 also included ventures into other forms of racing. In 2020, he competed in the Dakar Rally, one of the toughest and most grueling races in the world, where drivers navigate thousands of miles across treacherous desert terrain. Driving for Toyota in a Hilux, Alonso took on this new challenge despite having limited experience in off-road racing. He finished in the top 10 in several stages and ultimately placed 13th overall, an impressive result for a rookie in a field dominated by seasoned rally drivers. By the end of 2020, Alonso had built a legacy that extended far beyond his 2 F1 championships. Fernando Alonso's return to Formula 1 with Alpine in 2021 was one of the most anticipated comebacks in recent F1 history. Alpine had just rebranded from Renault, and the team was under new management. Alonso had a rich history with Renault, where he'd won his 2 world championships in 2005 and 2006. Now with Alpine, Alonso was eager to help the team grow and establish itself as a contender in the midfield, and eventually the front of the pack. Alonso returned with not only expectation to immediately win, but with a commitment to pushing the team forward. This was a change from his past years, when he was known for his impatience with uncompetitive cars. Alonso's 2021 season got off to a relatively steady start. The Alpine car was competitive in the midfield, but still trailed behind teams like Red Bull, Mercedes, and McLaren. Alonso faced early struggles adapting to the 2021 spec cars after his 2-year hiatus, with the first few races being more about reacquainting himself with F1. His performance in Bahrain, where he finished in the points before retiring due to a brake issue, showed flashes of his old skill. By the 5th race in Monaco, he was starting to hit his stride again, gradually improving his finishes and getting the car close to its full potential. The 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix was a pivotal moment for Alonso and a highlight of his return season. Racing at the Hungaroring, Alonso played a critical role in teammate Esteban Ocon's maiden F1 victory. In the closing stages, Alonso displayed masterful defensive driving to hold off a hard-charging Lewis Hamilton, who was trying to cut through the field after a chaotic restart. Alonso's defense lasted for over 10 laps, effectively protecting Ocon's lead and showcasing the racecraft and defensive skills that had defined his career. Throughout the season, Alonso was highly involved in car development discussions, offering insights that came from his extensive knowledge of different types of race cars. His input on tire management, aerodynamics, and setup played a significant role in Alpine's ongoing improvements throughout 2021. By the end of the 2021 season, Alonso had amassed 81 points, finishing 10th in the driver's standings. While not a groundbreaking position, it was a solid return for a driver in a midfield car, especially considering the competitive nature of the 2021 grid. Alpine also finished 5th in the constructor's standings, which, while still in the midfield, showed that they were building momentum. The 2022 season saw Alonso and Alpine aiming to build on the progress from the previous year. With the arrival of new technical regulations aimed at creating closer racing and more overtaking opportunities, the team and fans alike hoped that Alpine could capitalize on the changes. Alpine's 2022 car showed promising pace, occasionally putting Alonso in contention for strong points finishes. However, the season was also marked by mechanical issues that hampered Alonso's ability to consistently finish in points. Despite these setbacks, Alonso demonstrated that he had lost none of his edge, often outperforming teammate Esteban Ocon. In one of the most memorable moments of 2022, 2022, Alonso showcased his still sharp racing instincts for the Canadian Grand Prix, qualifying second in mixed weather conditions. Alonso delivered one of his finest performances in years, finishing ninth. However, as the season progressed, Alonso's frustrations with Alpine began to show, particularly regarding the reliability of the car. Mechanical failures and engine issues led to several retirements, which Alonso did not hold back from criticizing publicly. Towards the end of 2022, news broke that Alonso would be leaving Alpine to join Aston Martin for the 2023 season. Aston Martin had made significant investments and had ambitions to climb up the grid, and Alonso's decision to join them signaled his continued desire to be part of a project with upward momentum. At 40 years old, he still wanted to compete and play with the big boys. The season began with a bang. In the opening race of 2023, the Bahrain Grand Prix, Alonso delivered an electrifying performance, finishing on the podium with a third-place finish. Aston Martin's AMR23 car proved to be a strong contender. The key to Aston Martin's success in 2023 lay in poaching of top engineer talent, including former Red Bull and Mercedes staff, which gave him a technical advantage that Alonso exploited to the fullest. Throughout the first year of 2023, Alonso consistently fought at the top. By the fourth race, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Alonso had already claimed multiple podium finishes. This strategic advantage was on full display at the Monaco Grand Prix, where Alonso finished second, his highest finish of the season. In a race where tire management and precise driving were critical, Alonso's savvy tire management gave him an edge, helping him stay competitive even against the dominant Red Bulls. However, as the season progressed, Aston Martin faced challenges keeping up with the rapid development pace of their competitors. Teams like McLaren and Mercedes began introducing significant upgrades, and Aston Martin's performance started to lag behind. By the mid-season break, Alonso's podium finishes were less frequent as the team struggled to maintain the competitive edge it had in early races. As the 2023 season drew to a close, Alonso finished with a total of 8 podiums. His performances helped Aston Martin secure 4th place in the constructors' standings, a significant improvement over their previous results. Entering the 2024 season, however, Aston Martin faced new challenges. The 2024 AMR24 was expected to build on the success of its predecessor, but early indications showed that Aston Martin might struggle to keep up with the continuous advancements made by other teams. Red Bull remained dominant, while McLaren and Mercedes continued to make strides in performance. One of the main challenges for Aston Martin in 2024 was adapting to regulatory changes that impacted aerodynamics. The team had been heavily reliant on high downforce setups in 2023, which were slightly hindered by the regulatory tweaks. As a result, Aston Martin faced a steeper learning curve in optimizing their car's aero package. In the early race of 2024, Alonso continued to demonstrate his consistency. While podiums were harder to come by, he remained competitive in the top 10, scoring valuable points that kept Aston Martin in the constructors' race. His battles on track, especially with younger drivers like Lando Norris and George Russell, showed that Alonso had lost none of his competitive edge. The most notable clash so far came during the Mexican Grand Prix, when Alonso found himself in a heated, high-stakes battle with Lando Norris. Finding hard for position, Norris forced Alonso off track in a tight corner, and both drivers later received penalties for what the stewards deemed aggressive and unsafe moves. By mid-2024, the competition in the midfield had intensified, with several teams bringing significant upgrades. Aston Martin, constrained by budget limits, struggled to match the development pace with teams like McLaren and Mercedes. Looking forward, Alonso remains laser-focused on future achievements, with 2024 marking another season where he continues to compete against drivers nearly half his age. Despite challenges with Aston Martin's development, Alonso's ambition hasn't waned. If Aston Martin can provide him with a stronger car, there's no doubt Alonso will aim for wins and podiums. Thanks for watching, and subscribe.